The project started 5 years ago. Okay, it was a project directed by the F48 at Xanthi. The F48 is the archaeological service at Xanthi, the Capodistриan University at Athens, and the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. And we got involved. It was mainly a survey project in the area of Abdera, the ancient colony, and there were the directors of the project were Konstantina Kalitsi, which is the director of the F48 at Xanthi, Eurydice Kefalidou from the National and Capodistриan University of Athens, and Yannis Sidopoulos from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Mercurios Georgiadis, which is now here at ICAC with a Marie Curie Fellowship. And then Arnau Garcia was also involved in the design and the execution of the survey. When Mercuris came to ICAC, we developed together with José María Palet and Anne Harke a project on Mediterranean processes of colonization. Anne Harke and the people at Emporias had done lots of work during the last years analyzing the impact, the human environment and the impact of colonization processes, and is also an expert in colonization processes beyond the Mediterranean. For example, she has been working in California, so Anna was to direct the environmental part of the project. We wanted to see how colonization affects the movement, the environment of the colonized areas, what are the relationships with native populations, and it was ideal to compare Abdera with Emporion. And okay, we started this project, and we needed Anna was in charge of the palaeoenvironmental analysis, but we needed somebody with expertise in geoarchaeology and coring, and it was a very complex coring campaign. Alfredo will explain it, and the ideal person to do this job was Alfredo. Alfredo had a geography degree in the the Autónoma University of Madrid, and then he did his PhD in Clermont-Ferrand. He had already collaborated with Anna, had lots of experience in dating, geographic analysis, including GIS and remote sensing, and of course geoarchaeology, sedimentology, and he was very much used to multidisciplinary analysis, so he had a perfect profile for this project. So he started a little bit more than a year ago working on Abdera, and he will explain the coring campaign was extremely difficult, but Alfredo, Anna, Mercuris, and Arnau organized it very well, and it was very successful. So Alfredo, I'll let you talk now. And thanks for the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Hector, for the presentation, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this seminar. As Hector was saying, I'm going to present the first geoarchaeological results at Abdera. So I will share the presentation. So, as Hector explained, this geoarchaeological work is part of a bigger project called Translands, and this project studies Mediterranean transported landscapes. And it's focused in Phocaean colonies, and one of the study areas is the Greek colony of Abdera in the northern Aegean in Thrace. And this city was founded 2 times. First foundation by colonists from Klazomenai in the 7th century BC, but this colonization was not totally successful. We don't know why exactly. And it was founded again by colonists from Teos in 544 BC. Translands includes a multidisciplinary approach with several disciplines such as remote sensing, archaeological prospection, and palaeoenvironmental analysis, including multi-proxy paleoecology and geoarchaeology. So this is my part of the job. This is Abdera in Thrace, and it was founded by by colonists from the other side of the Aegean, from Phocea, the same colonists who founded Emporium in Girona. This is a view of the typical landscape of the area. It's a coastal area with wetlands, marshes, and lagoons, and also some hills, and in the background the mountains of the Rhodope. Well, this is an aerial imagery of the colony. We can see it is situated more or less a kind of peninsula surrounded by coastal marshes in the west and in the east and northeast. And what is interesting is that it has two phases. In fact, it's two cities. First city, the city of the archaic period in the north. It is the northern wall. And a second city occupied in the Hellenistic and Roman times. Why? Well, it's believed that it's mainly because they had to change the place of the harbor, because the first harbor facilities were situated 2 kilometers inland, and because of the silting of all the area, or the western area of the colony, they needed to move gradually the harbor, and finally they needed to move the whole city. Well, in Abdera, we don't have much palaeoenvironmental and geoarchaeological data, but we have some. This is a publication from CBS in 2004, but the fieldwork dates from the 80s. He did some sedimentary cores, 7 or 8, and no radiocarbons. But, well, we have a more or less general idea of the evolution of the area. Sirius interpreted that at the time of the foundation of the colony, the area was more or less a peninsula, almost totally surrounded by the sea. And after the foundation of the colony, in the west and in the east sides of this peninsula, the silting started, and finally the peninsula was totally landlocked. Well, why a geoarchaeological approach? Because finally we have very little information apart from this old work by CBS. We know almost nothing about Holocene landscapes in the area. About, for example, changes in the coastline or in the relative sea level. It is not very well studied. We don't know what was the environment at the moment of the colonization. We know nothing about the paleogeography and the potential influence in the colony. And we have no information about the posterior change after the colony. And we can expect some changes as a result of socio-environmental interaction, for example, human impacts in the area. But again, we have no information. And some of these questions can be answered or partially answered thanks to sedimentary archives. So the geoarchaeology at Abdera had two main objectives. One, analyze the geomorphological dynamics, the general geomorphological dynamics of the area, and the changes in the paleogeography in relation with the colony. For example, the coastal dynamics, changes in the coastline, dynamics in the wetlands, the silting of the area of the harbor, and so on. And the second big objective was to find sedimentary sequence good for multi-proxy and high temporal resolution paleoenvironmental analysis, including paleoecological analysis and geoarchaeological analysis. Well, what can you expect from geoarchaeology from a methodological perspective? Well, as Hector was saying, you can expect some coring, drilling, lithostratigraphy, and dating based in radiocarbon to to construct a chronostratigraphic framework. This is the part of the work I'm going to present today. And you can also expect more advanced techniques and analysis, such as sedimentology, geochemistry, or soil micromorphology. But this will be for next phases of this research. Well, the last year, despite the context, we were 2 times in the field, in July and in September, by land, sea, and air. And well, despite some technical difficulties and lots of problems, the campaigns were globally very successful. And well, thanks to a close collaboration between the ICAC and other laboratories such as Geolab, EBS, or the University of Athens, and sure, the F48 of Xanthi. Once in the field, we used 2 different drilling techniques. A manual one, the Russian corer. You can see the workforce in the picture. And in the second campaign, we used a mechanical corer. So here you can see some images of the techniques we used in the field work. We drilled in total 140 meters, and we tubed 54 meters for analysis in laboratory. Well, after this, these 54 meters of sedimentary cores with some opening, cleaning, and a very detailed description, high-resolution photographies, and first sampling for radiocarbon, and for tests for palaeontological analysis. We did all this job in the ICAC. This is an example of a complete sequence, stratigraphical sequence from coring, but we will see this one in detail later. Well, now I'm going to present a selection of some results from different sedimentary cores in the area. I will present 3 drillings. One in this area in the east part of the colony, in a marsh called Tuslagiol. Well, now it's more or less a seasonal marsh. I will present another sequence from the harbour of the colony, and a third one from a small marsh in the northern part of the colony called Baltas and Maki. Well, let's go with the first one. We retrieved in this area 4 meters of sediment in the center of more or less in the center of the marsh, with a Russian corer. And well, at the base of the sequence, we have the marine transgression, because we know the sea level in the early Holocene and in the first part of the Middle Holocene was significantly lower than now. And well, this transgression is more or less dated 5,000 Col BC or 7,000 Col BP. After this, we have the onset of a lagoon, and it remains more or less stable during several millennia, until the Roman period. In the Roman period, it starts to become a marsh, and well, with several hydromorphic paleosoils, means half terrestrial. In this second area of the harbour, the situation, well, the sequence is a little bit more complex. We drilled more or less in the center in the center of the ancient harbour of the colony, and we know that more or less from historical sources and from archaeology, it was silted after the 4th century BC. Well, this sequence is a little bit more complex. We had 5.50 meters of sediment with the Cobra corer, And well, at the base, we have a paleosoil, a dry paleosoil before the marine transgression. So this has to be before 7,000 BP or 5,000 BC. So it's probably in the middle to late Neolithic. And we have also a big piece of fired clay, probably Neolithic, at the top of this paleosoil. Just at the top of the paleosoil, we have also the marine transgression again. And what is interesting is that after this, well, we have a phase of seabed sediment with Posidonia, Posidonia oceanica, and well, we have a radiocarbon date 600, only 600 col BC here. That means that between before the transgression and the colonial period, we have almost no sedimentation in this area. This is normal considering that it was an open sea area. More or less here, you can see a strong decrease in grain size of the sequence. This means that the environment was suddenly more restricted, more protected. This is probably the foundation, the building of the harbor facilities. And here in this area, we have some indicators of human activity. For example, a big piece of marble. There is no marble in the area, so it has to be from the colony. And a big piece of wood, probably from a ship or something like this. Well, this part is also dated in the 6th century BC, so well, it's probably the life of the harbor. We see shortly after that the grain size starts to increase. This is probably because of the silting of the harbor. And at some point, we cannot say when exactly, we will need more carbon dates, it was abandoned. Why? Because we know that the sea level in the colonial period was more or less 60 centimeters below the sea level, the today's sea level. And we know also that the ships of this period needed at least 1 meter or 1 meter 20 of water. So we can guess that the harbor was abandoned more or less here. After this, the silting continues at the end of the Greek period and during the Roman period. And at some point towards the top of the sequence, it's almost totally terrestrial. But we have something interesting at the top of the sequence. We have a very high energy event, a very coarse layer and very mixed layer. Well, this is probably, we cannot say if it's a very, very strong storm or a tsunami or something like this. There have been tsunamis in the areas in late Roman and in the Middle Ages. But well, we'll need more research to be sure. But in any case, we have a very high energy event at the end of the sequence when the harbor was already silted. Well, let's see now the third point in Valta Sambaki, in the march north north from the colony. Well, this sequence was very long. We have 8 meters 20 of sediment, so I will explain it in two parts. Let's see first the lower half. In the lower half, what is interesting is that we have all the part in brown, in reddish brown, are alluvial sediments and soils before 5,000 cal BC. So this is in the early to mid Holocene. So we can say somewhere in the Neolithic. We have two big phases. One phase of low energy alluvial sedimentation, finer, and a big phase of much higher energy alluvial sedimentation. Both phases include several paleosoils, not very well developed, but this indicates changing conditions during this period. between slightly wetter conditions to seasonally dry conditions for the soil, I mean. And all this was before the marine transgression of 5000 BC or 7000 LBP. Again, we have, it's interesting, we have again a piece of fired clay, just more or less at the same level that the marine transgression or shortly after. Well, after this, we have here, after the transgression, lagunal environment, a quiet lagunal environment in this area of Alta Sambaki. And these lagunal conditions remain stable, more or less stable during several millennia. But we have some intermediate drier phases. For example, at 2 meters 70 or 80, we have a soil, more or less dry soil. And what is more interesting, at 2 meters 30 or 40, we have a layer which could be perhaps slightly marshy. So, well, we need to confirm this with more sophisticated analysis. But it's interesting because we have a radiocarbon just here, suggesting that it could be the moment of or just after the foundation of the colony. It's interesting because, well, we know, or in theory, the failure of the first colony was due to the diseases, probably due to marshy conditions. So it's interesting to see that perhaps we had marshy conditions in this area close to the colony. But as I was saying, we need more analysis to be sure. After that, in Greek and Roman periods, the lagoon becomes shallower, and at some point at the end of the Greek period or in the first centuries of the Roman period, it becomes a continental wetland. It loses its connection with the sea, probably because the coastline is advancing and now it's simply too far to be connected with the sea. So it becomes a continental wetland with the development of several hydromorphic paleosoils, which are wet soils, but soils in terrestrial environment. And remarkably, in the top of the sequence, we have again several high energy events, and especially one very similar to the one we had in the Harbour. So the conclusion is that somewhere after the Roman period, perhaps in the Middle Ages, we had something with very high energy, very high energy happened in this area of in the western embayment of the colony. As I was saying, perhaps a very big storm, a tsunami, who knows. Well, to summarize all this, what's new from these results? Well, the first interesting thing is that we found a relatively complex and varied Neolithic dry landscapes buried under the lagunal landscape before the transgression of 7000 KLBP. After this, the lagunal landscape developed and was very, very stable between the 7000 BP or 5000 BC and the Greek period. And Abdera was definitely not a peninsula, but it was surrounded partly by the sea and partly by lagoons, but it was not a true peninsula. In the east sector, it was never open sea, but as I was saying, a lagunar environment and very stable during all the Middle and Late Holocene. Yes, at least before the Greek period. In the west sector, we have a big embayment of more or less 2 kilometers, and at the end of this embayment, we had a small lagoon in the area of Alta Sambaki. This western embayment silted up very quickly after the establishment of the Greek Harbour. So, well, here we will clearly need more research and more analysis to be able to say if it is because anthropogenic impact or influence or because of natural coastal processes. This is a big question, and yes, we are just starting. So perhaps we will be able to answer to this in the following years. But in any case, in the Roman times, the western coastline had advanced significantly, and well, most lagoons were now very shallow wetlands or totally silted or terrestrial, half terrestrial environments. And after the Roman period and somewhere in the Middle Ages, we had, as I said before, one or perhaps more extreme events. So who knows, perhaps storms, tsunamis. We will need, well, again, more analysis to confirm this. What are the perspectives for the geoarchaeological and the palaeoenvironmental work in Abdera? Well, this is where the preliminary results. This work is still in progress. In any case, the next step is, well, it's the ongoing work. Will be a more detailed paleogeographical reconstruction, a multi-period paleogeographical reconstruction based on transects, of course. It's this is a part of the work I'm doing right now. Well, the good news, another good news in all this is that we have good sedimentary archives with a very good potential for multi-proxy and high-resolution paleoenvironmental studies, and well, which will be focused in several different topics, such as Holocene landscape evolution, the reasons of the failure of the first colony, anthropogenic impacts on the natural dynamics, or we could also focus in different periods such as the colonial period, the Neolithic, Roman, or even later phases. And that was all. Thanks for your attention. Thanks also to all the team and to all the institutions who helped with the field work. And that's all from me. Any question?
Alfredo?
What? Yes?
A question. It's Alex.
Okay.
First of all, thank you very much for this. It was very interesting to see all this work you have been doing all these months. So thank you for such a good presentation. I was just wondering, I know this is all the early stages of the research, and this is the first part of a very long project. I was wondering if you or maybe Mercuris and other people from the project, Anna or Hector, if you could all give us a bit of contextualization of these results with the archaeology of the area. What do we know from the archaeology of the colony? Do you have any first ideas of how everything fits together?
Well, as I explained in the introduction, we know that we know relatively well from archaeology and historical sources the history of the city, and we know that it was somewhat related to the evolution of the Harbour area, and they moved the city because of this, probably because of this, and at some point in the Roman period, the city was started to be abandoned, more or less. And well, it's interesting because in the results we are starting to see that in this period the lagoonal landscape started to be totally silted. So well, there could be a relation, a more or less clear relation between the landscape evolution and the history of the city, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you have, I don't know if Anna has done any preliminary analysis of the pollen. I don't know if, do you have, or if Mercuris knows, and you, the whole team from the resources, do you know anything about the resource management in the area, if they were using timber, for instance, if there was deforestation? Right. Do you know what was going on? Of course, this must have changed at different times, but at least from the archaic or the Roman that we have more data. Well, do we have anything to actually give us some clues for what is to come, or to test with your course and?
Well, from geoarchaeological and palaeoenvironmental data, not for now. We will have some data in the following years, but for sure we can, I'm more or less sure we can expect an important palaeoenvironmental impact in the area, because the colony was huge and it had a very important activity, and these people needed lots of resources for everything. So yeah, for me, we can expect some kind of changes, of clear changes, and also in natural processes. So, for example, in the dynamics of the wetlands, in soil erosion, I think we can expect changes. And somewhat we see the changes, because as I was saying, the lagoonal landscape was very, very stable between 5000 BC and the Greek period, and well, it starts to change just in the Greek period.
Yeah.
We cannot be totally sure of the causality, but well, we will see with more detailed analysis.
Yeah, it's also interesting to say that that Emporion, Anna will correct me if I'm wrong, but the port and Emporion also silted, and and this was a very important factor for the abandonment of the city. So, yeah, Mercury.
Hello from me as well. Okay, let me just give a very, very brief outlook of the archaeology of the area. I'm afraid there is nothing published prior to the colonization period. So all prehistory is unknown. Also, most of the things about the Thracians are unknown. The excavations the published ones are only from the classical period and especially Hellenistic Roman. About the environment, there is only one reference by an ancient historian, and I don't remember the name, I'm afraid, I don't know who said it, that at the beginning of the colony, there was a very thick forest in the area that people could not even penetrate, according to him. So there might be some insights from the sources, but how reliable these are, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think there's also, Mercury, there's also some sources that talk about the wetlands and how they were causing sickness to the first colony, isn't it?
Yes. Mainly the archaeological data from the burials that we have malaria, I think. And we have I think the 80% of the people that died are children below 1.5 years old. And they have signs of malaria, so we know that it was bad situation for them. But that happened in the 7th century. Later on, things stabilized as far as the population is concerned. So I'm not sure how long this phenomenon existed. That's about it. I'm afraid the whole project, especially for the pre-classical period, will be new data published for the first time.
Okay, José María.
Yeah, thank you. No, I just wanted to congratulate Alfredo for your work and your presentation and this research and the whole team, because while this research has been done in extremely difficult conditions during the pandemic, working in Greece was really was the first time for ICAC to be there. So it has been really a success. I see also that all the colleagues that you have presented are extremely positive in terms of sedimentology and also in terms of chronology. This is something to be taken into account, because it's not easy to really take the proper sediment in order to do the geoarchaeological, the geomorphological analysis. And then, well, I see, as you were pointing, some connections or similarities with Ampurias. No, we go to the west side of the Mediterranean, and we see also that, well, first these wetlands, no, this wet environment which surrounded the Greek colony. This is something similar in the two sides. and the resilience or the process of adaptation of these colonizers to such a dynamic environment, which should not be easy at all. No? So in terms of socio-environmental interactions, I think that the research is also very, very interesting. I see that in the Roman period, the environment seems to be drier, it seems. And this is also something similar to the west side, to the hinterland of Emporion, of Ampurias, where also in Roman times, well, the lagoon and the environment of the colony changed changed a lot and very quick. And then it's also astonishing this high energy event that you have pointed out, which is, as far as you say, it is not exactly dated.
No, not for now.
But it would be post-Roman, a post-Roman event.
Yes, probably yes. We have there are some studies of paleotsunamis in the area by a German team, and well, they found one tsunami for sure, and a candidate to tsunami in a neighboring area during the late Roman and in the medieval period. But you know, there is not a consensus between the scientific community around what is a tsunami and what is a storm, and well, this is complicated to say, because well, deposits are quite similar, and for now I prefer to say that it's just a high energy event, perhaps more than one. I still have to see other sedimentary records, because I have other sequences where I have 2 or 3 layers like this. So this can be interesting from this point of view also.
But it could be short in time, so
yes,
a southern event. That's sure.
It is. I'm sure. I'm sure about this. Okay. This kind of event, a big storm or a tsunami, is very, very short on time. Yes, for sure.
Okay. Well, good continuation and congratulations.
Thanks, Jose Maria. Arnau, you had a question?
No, I just wanting to add, so in referring to what Alexandra asked, and just to complement what Mercury said, so it's that this project is associated to an archaeological survey, a proper collecting of archaeological material within the city and outside the city. So we are starting to study so outside the city we are finding on one side cemeteries. That is an important part of the peri-urban landscape of the colony. And also, but we are starting also to localize some possible farms. So we will have the possibility to study some of the activities that were going on around the city. And also we have been surveying intensively inside the city. So we are starting also to study which activities were going on inside the city. So this is also under study. I guess at some point Mercury will give a amazing talk about all the survey results. But this is something that will be part of the puzzle with what Alfredo is doing. So what Alfredo is doing would be very important to contextualize all the archaeological information that we are studying right now.
Yeah, in relation to this, it's underway now. I mean, at least the Foriat Santhi, in collaboration with ICAC, we will probably start an excavation of the port to obtain lots of different types of paleoenvironmental data to improve this type of paleoenvironmental analysis. Okay, the port will probably give us lots of information about on-commerce, the relation with the metropolis and other colonies. So it should be, I mean, this during the next few years, if we get enough money to contract some specialized postdocs, we should be able to get pretty accurate results, because the project is very multidisciplinary and it has many different scales of analysis. Lydia, you had a question?
Alfredo, can you have any evidence, clues on the sediment, I don't know, coprolites, for example, about animal husbandry practices in this area?
Well, not for now, but it's something we can perhaps see later with paleoecological analysis. This is more Anna's work with some, how do you call this? With NPPs, the non-pollen palynomorphs. You can discuss this kind of things.
Thank you.
Yeah, Anna, perhaps you can answer, because we have used them quite a lot in PPs for this type of analysis.
Yes, for sure we will be able to track local grazing activities in the area of the catchment of the lagoons, thanks to the study of, as Alfredo said, of non-pollen palynomorphs, particularly the use of dung-related fungi that are fungi that develop on dung of herbivorous animals. And also, well, thanks to the pollen, because we have the nitrophyllal and ruderal plants that grow when vegetation has been grazed. So we will be able, for sure, to reconstruct changes in grazing exploitation of this area.
Okay, Valentina?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Alfredo. Great presentation. And I have two questions. Probably you say it, but I don't understand. The dealing with the high energy event. One of the hypotheses is so a natural event, a storm or tsunami. There are something clues about an anthropic activity very strong, or it's not possible. And the second question is about the post-medieval period. So the last part of the core sample. So I'm very interested on this period, and I noted that it is very thin, the last part of the core. So why there is problems with the modern activity or agricultural activity or something that changed the geomorphology or the sedimentology? So if you can characterize what happened in the last part of the core sample.
For the first question, I don't think these high energy events can be anthropogenic. I mean, what can be due to human impact is the gradual silting of the harbor and of all this embayment due to the human forcing on soils, and perhaps not only locally. It can also be in the mountains, because we are close to the mouth of the river Nestos, and it depends what's happening in the catchment, and due to human activity we can see a high increase in silts, and it can silt the embayment. This can be anthropogenic, but the high energy event in the top of the sequence is for sure natural. It's a storm or a tsunami, I don't know, but it cannot be anthropogenic. It has lots of sands, of reworked stone, ceramics, and fragments of marine of the seafloor. So it's well, it's not for sure. It's typically something natural. And for your second question, well, we have the three sequences I presented you are not the only ones we have. We have more. We drilled in 22 points, and we have some sequences in areas closer to the modern coastline, where we could have a more detailed record of the Roman and medieval period. We are still trying to date this, but well, for geomorphological reasons and landscape evolution, the areas with more sedimentation during Roman to medieval times are closer to the modern coastline. So I have not presented these sequences, but yes, we have some data.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Natalia.
Hello.
No.
Thank you, Alfredo, for your talk. I see you have very beautiful course. So I'm wondering if for the future environmental reconstruction, this high resolution analysis that you want to do, if you can give more details of what exactly are you planning on? Because yeah, I just wondering if you are only relying on pollen and as Anna said, like MPPs, or are you going more like to molecular analysis?
Well, I'm not in molecular analysis, but I'm planning other things. For now, it's just lithostratigraphic description and some dating. The next steps will be more dating and detailed age depth model. And after this, detailed sedimentological analysis, such as grain size analysis, loss on ignition, magnetic susceptibility, these kind of things. Geochemistry, probably using an XRF core scanner, and micromorphology. I do micromorphology mainly on paleosoils, but also in sediment. And well, this is more or less the panel of geoarchaeological techniques I use. And well, additionally, there are all the paleoecological proxies. But this is not my specialty.
Yeah.
Anna, feel free to intervene.
Yes.
Yes.
Was saying this because I think it will be very interesting for your research, because you say you want, I mean, you have all these cores and you will have pollen, you will have maybe XRF, micromorphology. We are working coupling all these techniques with lipid analysis. And it would be very nice if you could also use compound-specific isotope analysis of the alkanes contained in the sediment, because it will give you, from the deuterium of the carbon, it will give you temperatures and will give you humidity. And it's very precise. So in your whole coring, you will have detailed moments of humidity and aridity, or cold and warm phases. And also regarding the animal dung, we are coupling it also with MPPs and pollen analysis with esterols, and you can know the origin of the producer of the coprolites, or the signatures of the dung, or even waste coming from the city, let's say latrines or things like that. It's just because I'm seeing you have a very good sequence, and you have a very nice profiling, and you, if you want to think about this analysis, we can talk more in detail in the future.
Yes.
And yeah, just to give you more detailed data.
Yes, for sure. This sounds very interesting. I'm sure this has a lot of potential. Yes, but first let's date correctly the sequence, and later we will see that yes, we could include all these proxies. And I forgot that we can also add ostracods, malacological analysis for aminifera. For these are all very useful proxies. So yes, we can probably use a dozen of different approaches.
Yeah, just want to comment, because it's very rare that you have these very good preserved corings.
Yeah, I want to remember this is a very initial stage of the research. First, we had to go the paleoenvironmental course. This was essential, and now we have them. And now we have to plan a detailed paleoenvironmental analysis on selected cores, because obviously we won't be able to study all these records. they will be very useful for reconstruction, the general geomorphological evolution of the plain that Alfredo is doing thanks to log cross-section and dating, etc. But then we will need to select the best and longer records that I think there are right now at least 3 of them that are very interesting, including the Harbour and 2 of the eastern and western wetlands around the colony. And then we will develop the multi-proxy palaeoenvironmental analysis. And for this, we need to find also funding, because this is it's not only a time-consuming work. I mean, it is also expensive. But thank you for suggesting the isotopic analysis and the esteros. I mean, it would be very interesting to have information on temperature oscillations, particularly for the colonial period, and we know that there is this phases of aridity, particularly in the late Bronze Age and Iron Age in the Eastern Mediterranean. So, I mean, it will be very, very important. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we have like 2 minutes left. Mercuris, you have your hand raised. Do you have any very fast question?
No, I have just a comment, a very fast comment about Lydia, about the animals. Just to say that before the analysis, only indirect data are available. From sources, we know that horses were probably locally used and raised. And we have a lot of loom weights recovered, which seems that from habitation areas, possibly from sheep or linen, who knows, or both, but it's a big number. So it seems that in the houses they used a lot of looms and they worked a lot of textiles. That's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for attending. Thank you very much, Alfredo and now Mercuris, for the huge effort you did in getting this 140 meters of core and transporting a huge part of this and all the work you have been doing during the last year. So I think our time has finished. So thank you very much to everybody, and hopefully we will see you soon in the next research presentation seminar. Bye bye then.
Thank you. Bye bye.